Hi everybody, this is Shannon from No Shelf Control. Thanks for joining me on the channel again tonight. I have 15 more titles that are releasing on May the 2nd that I want to tell you all about. I know you're probably wondering, why so many for May 2nd? Well, a couple of things. I find that certain months have a higher rate of release of books than others. And the first Tuesday of the month tends to have the greatest number of books being released. So this is May, and it's the first week in May. So we have a lot of books being released and therefore a lot to choose from. And frankly, this month, I just happened to find a lot of them that I'm really excited about. So I can't wait to tell you all about them. The first one is called Love Buzz, and it is by Neely Tubati Alexander. It is not blurbed, but it is being published by Harper Perennial, and it is 304 pages. Again, all of these are published on May the 2nd. So this is Love Buzz, and the synopsis says this: a chance romantic encounter during a wild night at a Mardi Gras bachelorette party sends straight-laced Serena Khan's carefully constructed life into chaos. A wretched maid of honor, a hangover from hell, raucous Mardi Gras crowds. There isn't much Serena Khan is enjoying about this 4-day New Orleans destination bachelorette party for her semi-estranged cousin, the bride-to-be, until sparks fly with a handsome stranger who, like her, is also from Seattle. After their conversation is cut short, Serena is overwhelmed by the desire to find the charming man with the brooding eyebrows. But her list of clues is pretty short. His name is Julian. He lives on Chamber Hill. He works at a tech company. He loves Lil Wayne and Nirvana. The need to find him is, for Serena, both irresistible and totally irrational. In a few short weeks, her college alumni magazine is featuring her in a Life at 30 feature, cementing her as a success story. She will have officially achieved the safe, stable life her late mother insisted upon. Julian is not part of that plan. As she combs Seattle for her New Orleans flame, stripping away the perfectly curated life that would have made her mother proud, Serena must decide if the pursuit of real passion is worth it, and fast, before she destroys the life she always thought she wanted. So this is Love Buzz by Neely Tubati Alexander. I love New Orleans. I have never been to Seattle, and so loving that this book is set in both of those places. New Orleans when Serena actually meets Julian, and then Seattle when she's looking for him. So this is a bit of a romance novel. I'm excited about the plot and the fact that she is going to go searching for somebody that she has very little information about. So we will see if she finds him. Assuming that it is a romance novel, then she will, right? But we get to see everything that comes into play as she goes down that path. So looking forward to that one. The second book on my list is called We Are Too Many by Hannah Pittard. And it says a memoir, kind of. So we'll see what that means. Hannah Pittard is also the author of Visible Empire, which I have not read. I actually have not even heard of Visible Empire, so that's curious. This one is published by Henry Holt and Company, and it's 224 pages. Here's the synopsis of We Are Too Many. We Are Too Many is an unexpectedly funny, unflinchingly honest, and genre-bending memoir about a marriage-ending affair between award-winning author Hannah Pittard's husband and her captivating best friend. In this wryly humorous and innovative look at a marriage gone wrong, Hannah Pittard recalls a decade's worth of unforgettable conversations, beginning with the one in which she discovers her husband has been having sex with her charismatic best friend Trish. These time-jumping exchanges are fast-paced, intimate, and often jaw-dropping in their willingness to reveal the vulnerabilities inherent in any friendship or marriage. Blending fact and fiction, sometimes recreating exchanges with extreme accuracy, and sometimes diving headlong into pure speculation, Pittard takes stock not only of her own past and future, but also of the larger, more universal experiences they connect with. From the depths of female rage to the heartbreaking ways we inevitably outgrow certain people. Clever and bold and radically honest to an unthinkable degree, We Are Too Many examines the ugly, unfiltered parts of the female experience, as well as the many happier possibilities in starting any life over after a major personal catastrophe. Well, I love people who are fully open and totally transparent. And so I love the idea of this memoir. That she's going to give it to us completely straight really just excites me. So I guess I'm a bit of a voyeur, but I want to know exactly what happened. Her husband and her best friend. That's just got to be difficult, just difficult in the extreme. But I am very interested in hearing from somebody who's willing to tell it like it is. So can't wait to get my hands on that one and explore We Are Too Many by Hannah Pittard. The third one on my list is The Nigerwife by Vanessa Walters. And this is a novel. It's being published by Atria Books and it's 320 pages. The synopsis of this one goes like this. This twisty and electrifying debut novel about a young woman who goes missing in Lagos, Nigeria, and her estranged auntie, who will stop at nothing to find the truth, is perfect for fans of My Sister the Serial Killer and The Last Thing He Told Me. Nicole Oruwari has the perfect life, a handsome husband, a palatial house in the heart of glittering Lagos, Nigeria, and a glamorous group of friends. She left gloomy London and a dark family past behind for sunny, moneyed Lagos, becoming part of the Nigerwives, a community of foreign women married to wealthy Nigerian men. But when Nicole disappears without a trace after a boat trip, the cracks in her so-called perfect life start to show. As the investigation turns up nothing but dead ends, her Auntie Claudine decides to take matters into her own hands. Armed with only a cell phone and a plane ticket to Nigeria, she digs into her niece's life and uncovers a hidden side filled with dark secrets, isolation, and even violence. But the more she discovers about her niece, the more Claudine's own buried history threatens to come to light. An inventively told and keenly observant thriller where nothing is as it seems. The Nigerwife is a razor-sharp look at the bonds of family, the echoing consequences of secrets, and whether we can ever truly outrun our past. So this is generational with the niece and the aunt. It's set in Nigeria, which I love, and it also deals with secrets. And I love the fact that it says that it's inventively told and a keenly observant thriller. So I'm really interested in a thriller that pushes forward quickly and is really propulsive and makes me want to read it. So it sounds like this may have just that. So looking forward to that one. The fourth book on my list is called The Island Villa by Sarah Morgan. And it says she is the USA Today best-selling author of Beach House Summer. And there's this cool sort of, it looks like Greece to me, Santorini maybe, woman walking up the rock stairs with her hat on and her dress sort of blowing. And it's just a beautiful, simple drawing, but I love that cover. So this is The Island Villa. This one is published by Canary Street Press, and it is 384 pages. Here's the synopsis. The perfect summer novel, sharp, smart, and so much fun by Viola Shipman, USA Today best-selling author. A messy family drama and a steamy little romance unfold under the Mediterranean sun for the perfect summer escape. Celebrated romance author Catherine Swift has topped the bestseller list for decades, though her personal story hasn't been quite so successful. 3 failed marriages have left her relationship with her daughters strained, but that's about to be rectified. Engaged yet again, Catherine is counting on this wedding to be what finally brings them together as a family, and she'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. Adeline doesn't know what's worse, that her mother is getting married for a 4th time, or that she's being guilted into witnessing the train wreck at Catherine's luxury villa in Corfu. It brings back the pain of her parents' split, of her mother's infidelity, and the baby that was the result. Not that she blames her half-sister Cassie, but then she's never made an effort to know her either. Cassie, on the other hand, is thrilled by her mother's news and admires Catherine's resilience. She's equally excited about meeting the mystery groom and at the prospect of spending her summer in Corfu, where she can process a secret of her own she's been keeping from everyone. As Cassie and Adeline arrive on the island, they each have very different expectations of what the week will bring. They haven't been entirely honest with their mother about their lives either. But in the lead up to the wedding, all will be revealed, for better or worse. So I love a book with a good wedding in it. Four Weddings and a Funeral was one of my favorite movies. And I think weddings just bring family together in ways that are so interesting for the plot of a book. There's always a story to be told at a wedding. And I think this one is no exception. So you've got Catherine getting married for the fourth time, and her two daughters very much split on whether they support this idea or not. You have the setting of Corfu, which I think will be, beautiful and intriguing. And so I think this book has a lot to recommend it as a romance novel. So let's see what is next. So number 5 on my list is Homebodies by Tembe Denton Hurst. And the blurb on the book says, I saw so much of myself in Homebodies. Mickey made me look back and love my young Black woman self. And I loved her so much for returning me to that place. And that quote is from Honoré Fannin Jeffers, New York Times bestselling author of the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. So that is the blurb on that one. The synopsis, well, actually, it's published by Harper, and it's 320 pages. And the synopsis says this: a most anticipated book of 2023 by Elle, Harper's Bazaar, Vogue, Them, Bustle, and the Millions. Urgent, propulsive, and strikingly insightful, Homebodies is a thrilling debut novel about a young Black writer whose world is turned upside down when she loses her coveted job in media and pens a searing manifesto about racism in the industry. Mickey Hayward dreams of writing stories that matter. She has a flashy media job that makes her feel successful and a devoted girlfriend who takes care of her when she comes home exhausted and demoralized. It's not all A-list parties and steamy romance, but Mickey's on her way, and it's far from the messy life she left behind in Maryland. Despite being overlooked and mistreated at work, it seems like she might finally get the chance to prove herself, until she finds out she's being replaced. Distraught and enraged, Mickey fires back with a detailed letter outlining the racism and sexism she's endured as a Black woman in media, certain it will change the world for the better. But when her letter is met with overwhelming silence, Mickey is sent into a tailspin of self-doubt. Forced to reckon with just how fragile her life is, including the uncertainty of her relationship, she flees to the last place she ever dreamed she would run to, her hometown, desperate for a break from her troubles. Back home, Mickey is seduced by the simplicity of her old life and the flirtation of a former flame, but her life in New York refuses to be forgotten. When a media scandal catapults Mickey's forgotten letter into the public zeitgeist, suddenly everyone wants to hear what Mickey has to say. It's what she always wanted, isn't it? Intimate, witty, and deeply sexy, Homebodies is a testament to those trying to be heard and loved in a world that refuses to make space and introduces a standout new writer. So this is a debut for Tembe Denton Hurst. It is about a queer woman who is in media and is let go. And she pens a searing manifesto about what it's like to be Black and a woman in media. So I can't wait to hear all about that. Then it doesn't go well, and she retreats to her home in Maryland, which I think is what we all do when things get bad. We have to go home. There's just something about home that is our safe place, ultimately, when things take a turn for the worst. So interested to see what happens there, interested to see what she says about being Black and a woman in media, and also interested to see what life back home brings her, and whether she decides to pursue her life in New York or stay home and pursue a relationship there. So I think this one is extremely intriguing, and I love a good debut, as you know, so I'm ready to read that one. The next one on my list, number 6, is called Hula, and it's by Jasmine Lolani Hakes. The blurb on this one says, breathes new life into island narratives. It's impossible to come away unchanged. And that is by Kauai Strong Washburn. The book is being published May 2nd, of course. It is by Harper Via Press, and it is 400 pages. And the synopsis is quite a long one, but here we go. Set in Hilo, Hawaii, a sweeping saga of tradition, culture, family, history, and connection that unfolds through the lives of 3 generations of women, a brilliant blend of there, and sharks in the time of saviors, that is a tale of mothers and daughters, dance and destiny, told in part in the collective voice of a community fighting for its survival. There's no running away on an island. Soon enough, you end up where you started. Hai is the youngest of the legendary Naupaka dynasty, only daughter of Laka, once the pride of Hilo, granddaughter of Hulali, Hula matriarch on the Big Island. But the Nauka legacy is in jeopardy, buckling under the weight of loaded silences and unexplained absences, most notably in the sudden disappearance of Laka when Hai was a child. Hai dreams of healing the rifts within her family by becoming the next Miss Aloha Hula and prove herself worthy of carrying on the family dynasty. She demonstrates her devotion to her culture through hula, the beating heart of her people expressed through the movement of her hips and feet. Yet she has always felt separate from her community, and the harder she tries to prove she belongs, dancing in the halau until her bones ache, the wider the distance seems to grow. Soon fault lines begin to form and secrets threaten to erupt. Everyone wants to know, Hai most of all, what really happened when her mother disappeared, and why haven't she and her grandmother spoken since? When a devastating revelation involving Hai surfaces, the entire community is faced with a momentous decision that will affect everyone and determine the course of Hai's future. Part incantation, part rallying cry, Hula is a love letter to a stolen paradise and its people. Told in part by the tribal we, it connects Hawaii's tortured history to its fractured present through the story of the Naupaka family. The evolution of the Hawaiian sovereignty movement is reflected in the journeys of these defiant women and their community, in whose struggle we sense the long-term repercussions of blood quantum laws and colonization, the relationship between tribe and belonging, and the universal question, what makes a family? So this is really interesting to me. I don't know a lot about Hawaii. In fact, I don't even know what blood quantum laws are. So really interested to read about this and learn about what that means. Intrigued by the fact that she's trying to become Miss Aloha Hula. I did some beauty pageants when I was little, and so this topic is near and dear to my heart. I'll be interested to see how that plays out in the story. Also just interested in hula as an art form and learning more about Hawaii and its history. Also, they say that the book is a brilliant blend of there, and sharks in the time of saviors. I loved There by Tommy Orange. If you get the opportunity to read that, absolutely pick it up. It is small vignettes, stories that connect together in a number of different ways. It's about Indigenous people and Indian people. And I really would highly recommend that you read it. But the fact that they reference There as a comparable kind of story to this one just makes me all the more interested. So that is Hula by Jasmine Iolani Hakes. I think I might have said Lolani Hakes at first. On the cover, it's a little hard to read, but it's printed elsewhere, and it's Jasmine Iolani Hakes. What number are we on? Number 7 is La Tercera. It is a novel by Gina Apostol, and it is 480 pages, being published by Soho Press. And here's the synopsis of that one. In her first novel since Insurrecto, Gina Apostol assembles a vision of Philippine history from the 19th century to present day in the fragmented story of the Delgados, a family surviving across generations of colonization, catastrophe, and war. Rosario Delgado, a Filipina novelist in New York City, learns of her mother's death in the Philippines. Instead of rushing home, she puts off her return by embarking on an investigation into her family's history and her mother's supposed inheritance, a place called La Tercera, which may or may not exist. Rosaria catalogs generations of family bequests and detritus, maps of uncertain purpose, rusted chicken coops, a secret journal, the words to songs sung at the family home during visits from Imelda Marcos. Each life Rosario explores opens onto a multitude of other lives and raises a multitude of questions. But as the search for La Tercera becomes increasingly labyrinthine, Rosario's mother and the entire Delgado family emerge in all their dizzying complexity. Traitors and heroes, reactionaries and revolutionaries. Meanwhile, another narrative takes shape of the country's erased history of exploitation and slaughter at the hands of American occupying forces. La Tercera is Gina Apostol's most ambitious, personal, and encompassing novel, a story about the impossibility of capturing the truth of the past and the terrible cost to a family or a country that fails to try. So again, this is, a cultural history. Instead of Hawaii, we're talking about the Philippines in this one. Another place that I know very little about and I just love the opportunity to read a fictional story that teaches me so much about a new place, a new lifestyle, new anything. I just love soaking up new information. And the easiest way, the most palatable way for me to do that is through a novel. So I am really looking forward to reading this. I don't know much about the Philippines. I don't know much about American occupation of the Philippines, but I'm interested to learn about it. And this line here, a story about the impossibility of capturing the truth of the past and the terrible cost to a family or a country that fails to try. So interested to hear about the truth of the past and see how it plays into this story. Number 8 on my list is called You or Someone You Love, and it is by Hannah Matthews, and it is blurbed as a deeply compassionate book, Koa Beck, author of White Feminism. And this You or Someone You Love, the subtitle is Reflections from an Abortion Doula. And I had never, until I came upon this book, had never heard of an abortion doula. It makes perfect sense to me. I had a birth doula. That was someone who was there to take care of me as the mother during childbirth. And, the idea that you could have someone there to take care of you during an abortion makes perfect sense to me. This book is 352 pages, and it's being published by Atria Books on May 2nd, like all the rest of these. Here's the synopsis. An eye-opening, transformative, and actionable journey through radical and compassionate community abortion care and support work. What it looks like, how each and every one of us can practice and incorporate it into our daily lives, and what we can imagine and build together in a post-Roe v. Wade United States. Abortion touches all of our lives. While statistically nearly everyone knows someone who will receive an abortion in their lifetime, limiting narratives flatten our understanding and assumptions around abortion, while stigma and criminalization stifle discussion. What we lack are the language and tools to provide care and support to all of the members of our communities who receive abortions before, during, and after them. Now, Hannah Matthews, abortion care worker, doula, journalist and essayist, and reproductive rights advocate, breathes depth and nuance into the oversimplified narratives surrounding abortion, presenting an accessible guide to the emotional and physical realities of providing and supporting abortion care for our own communities. Featuring stories of real abortion experiences, including Matthew's own, You or Someone You Love offers a glimpse into the stunningly diverse landscape of abortion care across gender, race, and class lines, while illustrating how we can better support and protect the people who seek abortion in a country that increasingly promotes secrecy and shame. I love the title, You or Someone You Love. I think that is a perfect title because it really does impact everyone, in our country knows someone that this has had an impact on. And this cover with the beautiful flowers on both sides, I don't know how they decided to just frame the title in these gorgeous flowers, but I think it was a lovely choice. So that is You or Someone You Love. I am so excited about reading this one. Certainly post Roe v. Wade, this is a hot topic and something that I would love to learn more about and learn how to provide more support for. And it says that this is an actionable journey. So I'm interested to see what action I can learn to take as a result of reading this book. Number 9 is called To Anyone Who Ever Asks. And this is written by Howard Fishman. And the subtitle on this one is The Life, Music, and Mystery of Connie Converse. And there's this woman sitting on the couch smoking a cigarette. I can't tell. It looks like maybe a phone and something else behind her, a little clock. But she's wearing a bit of a schmata, a house dress of sorts. And the lamp is kind of crooked, and it looks very real, very 1970s kind of real to me. So I like that. This one is being published by Dutton, and it's 576 pages. So it's more pages than any of the ones we've talked about so far. Here's what the synopsis says. The mysterious true story of Connie Converse, a mid-century New York City songwriter, singer, and composer, whose haunting music never found broad recognition, and one writer's quest to understand her life. This is the mesmerizing story of an enigmatic life. When musician and New Yorker contributor Howard Fishman first heard Connie Converse's voice on a recording, he was convinced she could not be real. Her recordings were too good not to know, and too out of place for the 1950s to make sense. A singer who seemed to bridge the gap between traditional Americana, country, blues, folk, jazz, and gospel, the Great American Songbook, and the singer-songwriter movement that exploded a decade later with Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell. And then there was the bizarre legend about Connie Converse that had become the prevailing narrative of her life, that in 1974, at the age of 50, she simply drove off one day and was never heard from again. Could this have been true? Who was Connie Converse really? Supported by a dozen years of research, travel to everywhere she lived, and hundreds of extensive interviews, Fishman approaches Converse's story as both a fan and a journalist, and expertly weaves a narrative of her life and music, and of how it has come to speak to him as both an artist and a person. Ultimately, he places her in the canon as a significant outsider artist, a missing link between a now old-fashioned kind of American music and the reflective, complex, arresting music that transformed the 1960s and music forever. But this is also a story of deeply secretive New England traditions, of a woman who fiercely strove for independence and success when the odds were against her. A story that includes suicide, mental illness, statistics, siblings, oil paintings, acoustic guitars, cross-country road trips, 1950s Greenwich Village, an American marching into the Cold War, questions about sexuality, and visionary forward thinking about race, class, and conflict. It's a story and subject that is by turn hopeful, inspiring, melancholy, and chilling. So this is a biography of someone I have never heard of, Connie Converse, and it sounds like most people have never heard of her. But the way this is positioned is so intriguing to me, that this woman has a beautiful, haunting voice that people should know about, and that this gentleman cannot believe she's not a known singer. And then at some point in her life, she simply drives off and is never heard of again. So I'm interested to see if he finds her, what he finds out, and to learn more about who she is and what happens. So it reminds me a little bit of some Truman Capote kind of writing. I just, that sort of real story in a driving narrative that makes you want to know what happened. So that's the impression that I get when I read the synopsis of this book. Number 10 on my list is To Die Beautiful by Buzzy Jackson. So this one is blurbed by Jamie Ford, New York Times bestselling author of The Many Daughters of Afong Moy, which I just talked about a couple of weeks ago and absolutely loved. The blurb is so small that I can hardly read it. It says, "This isn't just a beautiful novel. It is a mesmerizing something you'll use to determine what lengths you would go to protect those you love." It's just really tiny at the bottom and I can barely read it, but the fact that it's endorsed by Jamie Ford means something to me. It is published by Dutton and it's 448 pages. To Die Beautiful by Buzzy Jackson. And Buzzy Jackson is a woman. I happen to see her picture, so just clarifying that. The synopsis says, a gripping and timely debut novel by award-winning writer Buzzy Jackson, based on the true story of Hannie Schaft, a heroic young Dutch woman who joined the resistance in Holland during World War II and became one of the Nazis' most wanted women. Hannie Schaft, a shy law student living in Nazi-occupied Holland, never dreamed of becoming a fighter. But when the lives of Hannie's two Jewish best friends are threatened in new and terrifying ways, she realizes she can no longer ignore the insidious rise of fascism in her country. Driven by moral outrage, Hannie becomes an armed member of the Dutch resistance movement. Hannie discovers her own untapped ferocity, wearing lipstick and heels to lure powerful Nazis close and assassinate them at point-blank range, bombing munitions factories and becoming such a threat that Adolf Hitler himself dubs her the girl with red hair. While humanity collapses around her, Hannie finds a chosen family of friends within the resistance and falls in love with a dashing fellow resistor at a tremendous cost. Her greatest weapon is her determination to stay human, a promise increasingly difficult to keep. To Die Beautiful is an unput-downable novel of love, loyalty, and the limits we confront when our deepest values are tested, told with the emotional resonance of meticulously researched history. So, love a good fiction book that is based on real history. Love that she became incredibly powerful and incredibly dangerous, so much so that Adolf Hitler had a nickname for her. And love the idea that she develops a found family. I love found family stories. And so really interested to hear about her family of friends that she adopts and what happens to her in her life. I'm guessing that she doesn't live, but we shall see. So number 11 on my list is A History of Burning, and it is by Janika Oza. And it is blurbed simply to say, phenomenal. And that is a quote from Mega Majumdar. I'm not sure. Mega Majumdar. And she just says it's phenomenal. It is 400 pages and it's being published by Grand Central Publishing. Here's what the synopsis says. An epic, sweeping, historical debut novel spanning continents and a century, and how one act of survival can reverberate through generations. At the turn of the 20th century, Purbai, a teenage boy looking for work, is taken from his village in India to labor on the East African Railway for the British. One day, Purbai commits an act to ensure his survival that will haunt him forever and reverberate across his family's future for years to come. Purbai's children are born and raised under the jacaranda trees and searing sun of Kampala during the waning days of British colonial rule. As Uganda moves toward independence and military dictatorship, Purbai's granddaughters, Latika, Mayuri, and Kia, are three sisters coming of age in a divided nation. As they each forge their own path for a future, they must carry the silence of the history they've inherited. In 1972, under Idi Amin's brutal regime and the South Asian expulsion, the family has no choice but to flee, and in the chaos, they leave something devastating behind. As Purbai's grandchildren, scattered across the world, find their way back to each other in exile in Toronto, a letter arrives that stokes the flames of the fire that haunts the family. It makes each generation question how far they are willing to go and who they are willing to defy to secure their own place in the world. A History of Burning is an unforgettable tour de force, an intimate family saga of complicity and resistance about the stories we share, the ones that remain unspoken, and the eternal search for home. So now we're talking about Uganda and the East African Railway, another area that I know absolutely nothing about. So we have these three books. We have one about Hawaii, one about the Philippines, and one about Uganda that tell a riveting, fictional story in a location where you can learn so much. So really excited about this one too. I can't believe that there are these 3 books all part of a release on May 2nd that sort of, you know, telling very different stories in very different locations, but sort of the same general push toward a fictional story that is set in a historical time and place and will teach me a great deal. So looking forward to that. Number 12 is Honeybees and Distant Thunder by Riku Onda, and it is translated by Philip Gabriel. I believe it's translated from Japanese. I speak Japanese, and the original title is actually written in Japanese. So Honeybees and Distant Thunder. It is being published by Pegasus Books, and it's 432 pages. Tender and intense, Honeybees and Distant Thunder is an unflinching story of love, courage, and rivalry as 3 young people come to understand what it means to truly be a friend. In a small coastal town just a stone's throw from Tokyo, a prestigious piano competition is underway. Over the course of 2 feverish weeks, 3 students will experience some of the most joyous and painful moments of their lives. Though they don't know it yet, each will profoundly and unpredictably change the others forever. Aya was a child prodigy who abruptly gave up performing after the death of her mother and is now trying for a comeback. Masaru, a childhood friend of Aya who came to the piano through her insistence that he learn to play, is now reunited with her after many years and is equally invested in both his and her success. Akashi, who is older and married, works in a music store and is the old man of the competitors, hoping for a final chance at success. And Jin, a 16-year-old prodigy, the free-spirited son of a beekeeper who travels constantly and has no formal training and doesn't even own a piano, yet whose mesmerizing insight into music has brought him to the attention of one of the world's most celebrated pianists, the late Maestro von Hoffmann. Each of them will break the rules, awe their fans, and push themselves to the brink. But at what cost? Beloved in Japan, Riku Onda immerses us in the world of music, from piano masterpieces to the buzz of bees and the rumble of thunder, which crescendos to a surprising ending in this rich and vibrant novel. So with my history in Japan, I'm terribly interested in this one. Also, love a musical setting, love anything that has to do with music. So this being about a piano competition is very interesting to me. And then also the idea that this has a surprising ending. Love a good surprising ending. So especially if you can catch me off guard. You know, I don't like foreseeing the surprising ending, but when one gets me, I'm like, oh, well done. So that is Honeybees and Distant Thunder by Riku Onda. We have 3 more. Number 13 is Excellent Advice for Living, Wisdom I Wish I'd Known Earlier by Kevin Kelly, New York Times bestselling author of The Inevitable, which I have not heard of. I have not heard of Kevin Kelly either, but I'm interested in this book. It is published by Viking and it is 224 pages. Here's the synopsis. 100 years from now, when so much of the nonsense of our age is forgotten, people will still remember Kevin Kelly and his wisdom. And that's a quote from Seth Godin. Wise, practical, optimistic life advice from author and leading technology thinker Kevin Kelly. On his 68th birthday, Kevin Kelly began to write down for his young adult children some things he had learned about life that he wished he had known earlier. To his surprise, Kelly had more to say than he thought, and he kept adding to the advice over the years, compiling a life's wisdom into these pages. Kelly's timeless advice covers an astonishing range from right living to setting ambitious goals, optimizing generosity, and cultivating compassion. He has wisdom for career, relationships, parenting, and finances, and gives guidance for practical matters ranging from travel to troubleshooting. Excellent Advice for Living is aimed primarily at young people, but speaks to all ages. This is the ideal companion for anyone seeking to navigate life with grace and creativity. And the ratings on this book are exceptionally high. And I'm just really intrigued to read what kind of advice he provides. I'll mention, I think this could be a great graduation gift. So keep that in mind as well. Kevin Kelly, and it is called Excellent Advice for Living, Wisdom I Wish I'd Known Earlier. So let's get to number 14. Number 14 is The Ferryman by Justin Cronin. He wrote The Passage, which you are probably familiar with, or at least have heard of. This one is 560 pages, so we're getting a little bigger here, and it is being published by Ballantine Books. This one says, founded by the mysterious genius known as the Designer, the archipelago of Prospera lies hidden from the horrors of a deteriorating outside world. In this island paradise, Prospera's lucky citizens enjoy long, fulfilling lives until the monitors embedded in their forearms, meant to measure their physical health and psychological well-being, fall below 10%. Then they retire themselves, embarking on a ferry ride to the island known as the Nursery, where their failing bodies are renewed, their memories are wiped clean, and they are ready to restart life afresh. Proctor Bennett of the Department of Social Contracts has a satisfying career as a ferryman, gently shepherding people through the retirement process, and when necessary, enforcing it. But all is not well with Proctor. For one thing, he's been dreaming, which is supposed to be impossible in Prospera. For another, his monitor percentage has begun to drop alarmingly fast. And then comes the day he is summoned to retire his own father, who gives him a disturbing and cryptic message before being wrestled onto the ferry. Meanwhile, something is stirring. The support staff, ordinary men and women who provide the labor to keep Prospera running, have begun to question their place in the social order. Unrest is building, and there are rumors spreading of a resistance group known as the Arrivalists, who may be fomenting revolution. Soon, Proctor finds himself questioning everything he once believed, entangled with a much bigger cause than he realized, and on a desperate mission to uncover the truth. From the New York Times best-selling author of The Passage comes a riveting standalone novel about a group of survivors on a hidden island utopia where the truth isn't what it seems. So this reminds me a little bit of the YA Neil Shusterman books, Scythe, and the follow-ups to those. I don't usually read a lot of utopian and dystopian novels, but this one is really interesting to me. When I find one, Emily St. John Mandel, perhaps, a few others, I usually latch onto them and really love them. So this one, I think, is going to be right up my alley. I love hearing about the way authors sort of build worlds and societies and what they see as the possibilities for how things could be in those worlds. So I think this one is going to be absolutely fascinating. It's called The Ferryman by Justin Cronin. And the last one on my list, very different from number 14. Number 15 is The Bride Wore White by Amanda Quick. And I love this picture on the cover. Look at that red lipstick. I wish I could wear red lipstick like that. You know, never smudges, just absolutely perfect. And look at her beautiful wedding dress and the like fleur-de-lis in the background. Love that. So this is by Amanda Quick, New York Times bestselling author. It's called The Bride Wore White, and it is published by Berkeley and 320 pages. This one has a very short synopsis. It says, a woman wakes up in a honeymoon suite, dressed in a wedding gown next to the groom. Problem is, she's not the bride, and he's been murdered. Amanda Quick returns to the 1930s glamour of Burning Cove, California, where everyone has a secret they would kill to hide. So this is just a, propulsive mystery that is set in the 1930s in a glamorous setting that I'm very into. So I really want to read this and see what the story is. What's the secret? What's the mystery? Can I figure it out? But loved the cover, love the synopsis and the idea of what's going on in this book. So can't wait to read that one, and I hope that you will be excited about it as well. So those are the second 15 books that are coming out on May the 2nd that I am excited about. I love having the opportunity to come here and tell you guys about all these books. I love doing the research to find the books and bring them here to tell you about, and learning about them myself to put them on my TBR. I hope your TBR has grown immensely from this list, but that it isn't growing so much that you feel frustrated. Remember, there's all the time in the world to read all of these books. So I hope you will come back and join me again. I do have a wish list at the bottom of my video description that has a link to bookshop.org if you would like to gift me with a book, as some folks have. When I get that book, I will read it, I will review it on the channel, and I will absolutely give you a shout out. And I love when that happens, so feel free to do that if it's something you're called to do. As I said, I hope you will come back and watch more of my videos. If you liked this one, please like and subscribe. It helps me to know what you're enjoying and what I should do more of. I look forward to being back with more single book reviews with the rest of the list from May 2nd. That was not even, these 30 books are not even the whole list. I have more. A few single book reviews, a few bookshop tours, and a few secrets up my sleeve. So I hope you'll come back and we will talk all things bookish again soon. Take care. Bye.